What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Creative Exchange, where I sit down with creators and entrepreneurs, interview them. You get to hear their story on the YouTube channel, but also on Apple Podcast and wherever you listen to podcasts. So today I have the honor of talking to Rachel and Daniel from Mango Street. Woo! So for the few people that aren't aware of your channel, what you guys do, describe it in a few words.
Well, we make photography and filmmaking tutorials that don't waste your time, and we make short films as well.
And what were you guys doing before YouTube?
I was a wedding photographer.
Yeah, and I worked as a motion graphics artist at a startup.
It's been really fun to see you guys kind of blow up over the past year. As a person who does tutorials sometimes, but also makes tech videos on YouTube, I had a close eye on two channels this past year, and it was Mango Street and then Peter McKinnon. And it was really cool to kind of like see you guys blow up at the same time, because I think on my side of things, looking from the outside in, there was a certain need on YouTube for a certain kind of content. So when you guys first came on the spot, what did you think you had to offer? Were you like, this is missing from YouTube?
I think so. Like a lot of tutorials are usually drawn out. There's like super long intros that are maybe not always necessary. And for me personally, I always like to just like skip ahead and get to the point. And so that's what we wanted our tutorials to be. Like, we didn't want people to be like skipping through ours.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of photography tutorials like in our style.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's more fashion oriented or just studio lighting, and we're more, we shoot with just available light, and
it's more like lifestyle.
Yeah, and we don't use Photoshop really. We use Lightroom for most editing. So I felt like our style wasn't really represented on YouTube, so we thought it was a good opportunity to put out some videos.
Yeah.
And especially during the time where everyone seems to be a photographer almost. You know, the pictures that you see on Instagram, people are getting good because for some reason you can, not for some reason, I mean, iPhones and phone technology has certainly advanced to take amazing pictures. Like, you have portrait mode and stuff. So I think one of my biggest questions as a iPhoneographer, I'm not necessarily a photographer, but what are some suggestions to the general public out there that maybe wants to step up their mobile photography? Mm-hmm. You know, what are some basic things that you've noticed that can help you stand out on the social media platforms?
So we just did a video about this. Did we push that one out? Was that the last video?
Yeah. That one went out. I mean, there's like a few basic things that I think people could do more frequently to like improve their photos. I think one thing that we see often is people putting their subject right against the wall or background or whatever they're shooting in front of. They put them right up on it. But generally, I mean, a lot of times it can look better if you put them out several feet from the background, and it gives them that extra depth. And especially if you have like portrait mode or something on your phone, it'll help separate your subject from the background, and that can look good a lot of times. So that's something we recommend.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's hard to stand out. I think it's hard to be original, but I don't think it's hard to stand out if you are original. I think if you just, like the video that we just put out talks about avoiding trends that are really popular right now. Like, there's editing styles like teal orange, that's really popular. Fairy lights are really popular.
I loved that you mentioned the HDR look. Rest in peace. God, that everyone was doing that.
Thank goodness that's over, because
well, trends are kind of cyclical. Like, I feel like it's coming back a little bit too. And like crushed blacks was really popular like 5 years ago, and I feel like people are doing that a lot more now.
Just with like social media, I think they spread faster, but then that also means you get tired of them faster too, because you just like, your whole feed turns into like the same image essentially. Everything just starts to look the same. Everyone edits the same. So like, we always just recommend keeping things timeless. Yeah. When you're editing especially, so it's like not doing anything too extreme.
So that you're not super embarrassed when you look back.
Yeah, just because like having shot for several years, you know, when we look back at photos from 2012, 2013, it's like,
we followed trends hard back then.
It's like the blacks are so crushed, and it's just like, well, if it's a really good photo, we're gonna re-edit it if we want to use it for like a portfolio or something. But we want to help people like not make the same mistakes.
For those people who don't necessarily know what that means, what does it mean to crush the blacks? Because it was everywhere.
So it might be like a faded look that people
Yeah,
refer
it's
to.
that super matte look.
So what
It's
it does
basically
is
when you take Visco Cam, you click on fade and you crank it all the way up.
what it does is like if you have a tone curve with a black point and a white point showing the ends of contrast, it's taking the black point and making the blacks not black, and it's making them dark gray. So when you lift that point, it just makes everything gray and not black, which is it's good if you just do it just a little bit.
Yeah, if you do it a little bit, it kind of takes like the digital edge off of like a digital photo, and it makes it. We do it because it looks more like film. But if you do it too much, then it looks time stamped to us.
Yeah. And I'm such a big fan of the film look, so it was super fun to have you guys involved in the video I made with shooting my first film, role. That was super exciting.
Those turned out well.
Yeah,
they were cool, right? And that's such a cool satisfaction. But it is interesting to look at what film looks like. And my grandpa shot pictures like in the 60s that you look at them today and you think that they were shot yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I think making your digital pictures look like film is definitely a look, but I think that's more on point with that timeless look.
Exactly.
Do you agree?
Yeah,
definitely
there's we'll see a lot of times in blogs, photography blogs or something, where people complain about the VSCO look, but all VSCO was really all they set out to do was emulate film stock. And so I don't see anything inherently wrong with editing in that style because you're just emulating film, which has such a timeless feel to it. So as digital progresses, if you always, have an analog look to your photos, I don't think you're in the wrong. So.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, you're never technically in the wrong.
Yeah,
Like, you can do whatever
you want.
Yeah, seriously.
That's just how we personally feel about it.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get a little bit geeky real quick. Can we talk about gear?
Yeah.
Because as a person who, again, I don't call myself a photographer, but I still geek out over just gear around it. And usually when it comes to photography and videography, they're one and the same most of the times, unless you are more focused on YouTube and vlogging. Of course, autofocus is way more clutch. But when it comes to photography, what is your go-to? And have you always been that way? Or do you switch cameras a lot?
So I've always used a Canon 5D, like that line. I started on the Mark II, upgraded to the Mark III, and now I shoot on the Mark IV. And that's just what I've always shot on. I'm comfortable on it. I'm not a gear person. I'm so much more on the creative side of photography that if I was more comfortable with another camera, it wouldn't really matter to me which one I used. But I am a lens, like I have to shoot with my 35 always. Like
35. Is it 1 or is it 2.8?
It's a 1.4.
Yeah, 1.4.
Yeah, but
so nice, creamy and bokeh-ish.
that never comes off her camera, really.
Yeah.
Like no matter
It's
what.
such a versatile length, you know?
Yeah, and it works well for our style.
I feel like it's signature to my style. Like if I shoot with a different lens, I'm like, that doesn't look like I took that photo.
Yeah.
Right.
For portraits, just like anything.
Yeah.
35.
35, sometimes 85, and really just those two lenses.
Yeah, and
Because Daniel, you were more into videography, right? Before.
I have a varied background.
Okay.
It's I've always been on the post-production side of things, but Rachel taught me photography. Basically, I took a film class film photography class when I was like 15 in high school, and I'd never pursued photography after that. And then when we started dating,
I needed a second shooter.
I don't know, like I always liked.
Yes, I love it. Though.
I always liked photography, but like I had other interests in high school, and so I just started. She taught me what she knew, and then that's when I started.
We learned a lot together. Like,
Yeah.
We did workshops and stuff together.
Yeah.
So.
That's fun. And it's always so cool to kind of have your partner in crime who you're not only having fun together. And, I think a lot of relationships, it's like you come home from your 9 to 5 and it's like, oh, let's just watch Netflix forever, which is sick. But I think it's really cool, especially when you do creative work, because it can be so stressful, but it can also be the funnest thing ever. Like you can find yourself in Hawaii taking pictures and video and like, oh, this is our job. So what are some pros of, doing creative work with your partner in crime? And then what are some cons of it? Because I have a similar thing. My boyfriend is also a YouTuber, and so it's fun, but also we can find ourselves sometimes competing for certain things. So what are some pros and cons?
You want to talk about pros first?
Yeah, pros. There's more pros. Let's just get that straight. Yeah.
Well, we get to hang out like all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, since it's our full-time job now, we work together and then we live together, and so it's like fun to, you know, you don't have to worry about coworkers that you don't like or don't get along with. So it's like great working with the person you love.
Yeah, like I'm super, like all my goal in life is just to like be so mindful of how I spend my time. And then when I'm working, I don't want to be like hating my life. And working with Daniel is like, it's like the best. Working from home with Daniel and Carlton is like.
And Carlton, oh yes, we can't
We need a
forget
Carlton
Carlton. I know. So Carlton is their adorable dog. How long have you guys had Carlton?
We've had him since he's a puppy. He's like 3.5 now. So.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, you guys get to hang out with your dog in your cool loft in Los Angeles. So yeah, it's cool.
It's great sharing a passion. You know, like we're both on the same page about a lot of things, and
when something good happens to one of us, it happens to both of us.
Yeah, and it's like we're not in separate industries where we don't understand what the other person's interested in or don't care. It's like a shared interest.
And I think just with us personally, we complement each other really well.
Yeah.
Like our strengths are opposites. So like I always have like a thousand ideas and like no way of executing them, and he always is like needing an idea to execute because he's so good at executing them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like we work together.
Yeah, it works out well. It's if it was just like one of us running the channel, you know, there'd be something missing because the other person complements that. So
there would be no motion graphics if I was.
There would be no videos if I was doing it.
That's amazing. Yeah, forget cons. There are no cons. It's sick.
There's for
the,
sure cons.
well, the only, I mean, because the only
The pros
thing,
outweigh.
yeah. I guess the only thing that's unique between John and me, what's correct? Is it John and me?
It's the objects
She's an
of.
English major.
Okay, because if I took out John, I would say me.
Exactly, that's a good way to. Yeah.
So John and me. So the thing with John and me is, you know, we do have separate channels, but we do ideally the same thing. But then because they're separate channels, they're always like, oh wait, you got that job and you're traveling. Cool, man, I wonder if I could have done that. So I guess there are different struggles with like doing the same thing but on kind of different playing fields. And so with you guys, you know, you share the channel and you equally put in the work for the most part. So I imagine, you know, that's not an issue, but at some point does it become like, get off my case, I'm gonna get it done, or you know, like, because you do share that workload.
Yeah.
I think the only, like, the biggest con I would say is that sometimes we fight for creative control of something. Like if he has an idea and I have an idea, we kind of like.
Yeah, because once if you have the vision for something, you don't want to deviate from that.
Yeah.
And if I didn't even know your vision to begin with,
Right.
That becomes like a conflict point because I'll just think of a way to execute something, but then you don't want it to be different than what you already had in mind and we're planning on. So.
I honestly can't think of anything else that we.
Yeah. No, but that's something that I think is helpful, like a skill to grow in terms of communicating vision, communicating, like putting structure around something so that other person can be successful. Because I think that's such a huge skill also when it comes to delegating things. And like, oh my gosh, say you have to maybe like hire a freelancer to help you out. They're going to be so much more successful if you give them the structure to succeed and you know how to lay things out. Have you guys, so you've had the YouTube channel for just over a year, right?
Just a year in January.
Yeah, so for a little context, a year and you guys have over 500,000 subscribers. Started from zero, over 500,000. Amazing. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but they just got engaged, so congrats.
Thanks.
And so that's pretty crazy. 0 to 500K in 1 year. And so what was that first video or that first moment that you had that was like, oh, this YouTube thing, could this be our job?
So,
Probably the first one.
yeah.
I didn't know anything about.
Oh, your
YouTube.
first video.
Yeah. When I was working at my job, I was working, designing motion graphics for a course that was about how to be successful on YouTube. So, you know, every day I'm going in. And
interesting.
Yeah, and so I'm like hearing all these things. And I was like, people make money on YouTube, I guess, like whatever. I'm not PewDiePie or, you know, it's, you know, I never really thought about it. But then as I like watched, you know, kept like working, I was working on these things. I was hearing these things over and over again. I was like, I came home one day, I was like, Rachel, we should start a YouTube channel.
I
She's
have
like,
all of the secrets.
yeah, and she's like, no, let's not start another one of your crazy ideas because, you know, sometimes I like get really excited about something and then it, you know, for whatever reason, like it doesn't come to fruition
gets, like,
or
super excited about stuff.
Yeah.
like so stoked to do it, and then we do it for a little bit, and then he gets excited about it.
It's like, if it doesn't like, I don't know, if it
and
doesn't seem promising or something.
The YouTube channel is like just like so much work, and I was like,
there's like, it's a huge pond, I guess. A lot of fish out there in the YouTube world, so it's
when
like
you don't have anything, and it's like to post that first video is so scary.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time on that video, and we made it. I think it's like a good example of like what people, what was yet to come, I guess, what people could expect. It was really short. It was like under 3 minutes, and there were like silly jokes in there, like silly gifs or like GIFs, or like we like threw in some like humor aspects of it and just kept it moving. And I think when within the first 48 hours of posting it, a couple of photography blogs picked it up.
Yeah.
So then it had over 10,000 views, which is like way surpassed our expectations. We're like, oh, it'd be great if it got 500 views in the first week or something. That would give us enough motivation to keep going. So when it, after a couple of days, when it broke that 10,000 mark, I think we were like, we knew we were onto something, I think.
Yeah, and I don't remember when we got like our first 1,000 subscribers, but it was like pretty soon, and we were like, let's aim for like 10,000 by the end of the year.
Yeah, we wanted 10,000 subscribers.
I think you guys did it.
Yeah. Obviously, you adjust the goals as you go along, but
but it motivated us to keep doing it, because I don't know if we would have kept doing it.
Yeah, if no one cares, then
it's
really
hard
to also care if no one's going to watch it. It's hard to put in your entire weekend into a video and go back to your day job if no one's going to even watch what you do.
Because he was working full time, and then he'd come home, and then we just work on it all weekend. Like our whole last year, we didn't have a weekend.
Yeah, it was nonstop.
What are weekends anyways? Yeah. For YouTubers,
Yeah. So, luckily, like it gave us like the motivation to keep going, I guess.
That's cool. What was that like to juggle when you're just starting out, juggling a YouTube channel full time, so wedding photographer, motion graphics? How long were you guys doing that job before YouTube? And did it get, like, what was the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to go all in on this YouTube thing? Like, no more of XYZ, gonna go all in. Was that like 6 months into it? And like, what was it, a relief? Was it scary?
Scary for sure. I think for both of us, scary for sure.
Yeah.
I still have 2 weddings left, and then I'll still take a wedding here and there. Like, I don't think I'm totally done, but it's kind of nerve-wracking to trust.
Yeah. So
because especially since it's both of us and we're getting married, like
all
of our eggs are in.
It's in the YouTube basket.
Yeah.
But so I was working as a motion graphics artist I started in October of 2016, I think. So it was like a few months before we started the channel is when I started that job. So I was kind of juggling both for a long time.
That job was like really hard for him to leave. Like
it was a great job, and it was like it was
comfy.
It was comfy, and it was one of those jobs that it took me. I've been out of school for like 9 years. It took me a long time to get a job like that. So it was like a lot of hard work to finally get like a really good job. So
what were you doing? Was it like an agency that would give you motion?
I was just working for a online education
like
course creation company. Gotcha. I guess they were in Y Combinator a couple of years ago, and
cool.
So they were growing, and then they brought me on to polish up the videos and motion graphics. So I left that job at the end of October, and so that was still like 10 months though of doing both, all the time. So they were like really long work weeks. So by when the first day of November, when I didn't have to go to the day job, it was like amazing. I was like, it felt so like liberating, but it was also like, oh, we can do a ton of stuff now. Like we can do more videos. Yeah. We can take more time shooting them. We can do whatever. Yeah. So it felt really good.
It's so cool when you have that moment where you're used to doing YouTube on top of everything else. Yeah. So I had that moment when I was a student in college, but also doing YouTube. And the moment I dropped out, I was like, all I'm doing is making videos. This is amazing,
Yeah. But then it gets scary when you're like, oh, how am I going to pay rent in a month? But it's also a great motivation to like keep working, keep getting better, just keep hustling because you're completely self-reliant on yourself and your channel. So.
Yeah. And especially with the wedding industry, I mean, it has become an industry. I feel like 20 years ago, I don't know, with photography, especially video, I feel like having a video to your wedding is still a very new thing, but it's such a massive thing that people are shelling out so much money for it. And obviously, if you have a talent, you're going to be very sought after. So, you know, was there a point, and you're still doing weddings occasionally, but was there ever like, but this is more money right now? Like, you know, how did you kind of, like, did your heart pull to stay there because of that aspect? Or?
So, yeah, it is comfortable. Like, I do like having that income coming in, but it's so much work compared to YouTube. It's way more work. And
It's like different kind of work, but
Yeah.
it is like
it's physical.
high
like,
pressure.
Yeah,
Right.
very high pressure. And you're dealing with
responsible
clients.
for
Yeah,
their most important day.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah.
They've told me. But yeah, it's like so much work, and I feel like, I don't know, sometimes you can just like do like a 30-second spot in a YouTube video and get paid the same amount for like this taxing all day thing
Yeah.
and 40 hours of editing and all the emailing and
That's true, because a lot of people will see that price tag with wedding photography or videography, and they don't realize what goes into it and the pressures. I've shot maybe 5 wedding videos, and that's when I was just getting, you know,
I didn't know
started
that you
out.
shot wedding videos.
Yeah. I feel like we all, like,
Everyone starts that way.
anyone who is like a videographer or
Yeah.
a photographer at some point has dabbled in weddings,
For
you know.
sure.
Whether they wanted to or not.
It's like there's always a family member that's like, you have a camera, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it started, and it was funny. I was just doing a podcast with Matt, who made the documentary Minimalism, and we were talking about that. And he did wedding films, and he loved it. And I was like, you are the first person that I've ever talked to that actually enjoys that, because it is so much pressure. And I did about 5, and I when the finished product came out, I was so proud of myself because I was doing most of those alone. So I didn't even have a second shoot or anything. I didn't know how to ask people. It
That's
was like
hard.
way early on, yeah. And so for me, it was almost like pat on the back, good job. Like I had something to prove, but I was like, this is miserable. I didn't like it at all. And I got kind of jaded on the wedding side of things because I saw behind the scenes of a lot of, not bad weddings, but it was picture perfect on the outside.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure you guys have experienced your fair share of like seeing behind the scenes of like maybe bridezillas or just like not good situations. And it was weird because it showed me like a really bad side of weddings. And I was like, no, thank you. I'm going to dip.
That's why our wedding is not going to look like a wedding at all.
Yeah.
We definitely understand that side of it. Though we've gotten really good at like sort of attracting clients who are super laid back.
They like trust you to do your thing. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
we love your work. Just
They're usually
do your thing,"
creatives.
you know? So
Yeah.
that works a lot better
That's
for
cool.
our style too than people who are like, here's a shot list of everything I want, and they're all from Pinterest.
We haven't gotten one of those
Yeah,
in, I don't even
like
know how long.
4 years.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
we eliminated that pretty quickly just
Yeah.
by like I think our style.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because you want it to be a good fit with, you want the clients to fit with well with the photographer just as well as the photographer fit with the client. So.
100%. What is your ideal wedding?
Like
Is
to
it-
shoot,
Or for you guys? I mean,
For
you're
us?
about to get married.
we're eloping
Yeah.
No way.
We're eloping
in the Faroe Islands.
in the Faroe Islands in June.
Casual.
So it's going to be
Super
a
cash.
small
Super
amount of people there.
Gosh.
And
We have our favorite photographer coming,
Yeah.
2 of our favorite filmmakers, and then our really good friend Eric Floberger is
Flowburger?
Floberger. It's Floberg.
We call him.
Around
It's
here we
more
call him
fun.
Floberger.
That's amazing.
Um,
Oh, that's fun.
yeah,
and
he's-
it's about you guys and about capturing dope stuff. Are you gonna put the wedding video on your channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of have
I
to,
feel like
right?
we
Yeah.
have to.
And they're so good that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
sure
amazing.
like they'll make us look good. We're dopey in front of the camera, so I think they're gonna do a really good job. Hopefully,
They're great
polish us
filmmakers
up a little bit.
on YouTube, by the way. White and Reverie.
Okay,
Yeah.
I need to look them up
They're
then.
shooting our
Do they
wedding.
do strictly weddings?
So not for long probably because they're so good.
I feel
But
like
right
most
now-
people end up, if you're, there's
I could see
exceptions,
them
but
going
like
to
a lot of people
commercials so
evolve
soon.
out of weddings to more commercial stuff,
Yeah,
and I feel like
100%.
they're probably in that realm.
They're too good to be
Yeah.
Yeah.
just doing weddings.
Yeah. Who are your favorite YouTubers? Or maybe not YouTubers, but creators, entrepreneurs, people that you draw inspiration from? Who have you kind of looked to in your YouTube journey but also overall as business humans too, because you're running your own business and you have, you know, with your wedding photography and stuff. So who are some people that you look to?
As far as like YouTube goes, we actually we never spent much time on YouTube before we started a channel. Like
really?
I would just look up.
See, that's kind of cool. Maybe it's because you had that fresh perspective on it. That's why you guys really stood out.
I would I'm self-taught in a lot of different areas, so I relied on tutorials a lot. So that's mostly what I use YouTube for. I was like, oh, it's just tutorial machine, you know, like
search engine.
Yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't like I didn't subscribe to any channels. I didn't know who Casey Neistat was, anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't know what a vlog was for like our first 2 months on YouTube. Daniel's like, you should watch him. He does vlogs, and I was like, what's a vlog?
What's a vlog?
But so like, yeah, I think we do have like maybe a different perspective than some people. But one channel we do love is Brandon Lee. He's a travel filmmaker.
Do you know him?
I don't.
He's so good. He like
it's more than just travel. It's like documentary. It's just very
raw. I feel like we're downplaying when we call it a travel filmmaker, because
don't think of any like bro travel films that you've seen. It's Brandon Lee Li.
Okay.
Yeah, you should check him out. He makes amazing stuff that like he has this video from Hong Kong and it won all these, you know, award, Vimeo staff picks, all these things. And I had been to Hong Kong and made a video, and I was like, I should just delete this. This is the worst piece of crap video I've ever seen compared to Brandon Lee's Hong Kong video. It was so good. I've seen it.
Cool.
We've seen it like so many times, showed it to everyone because it's so good. But he's like one of our favorites.
Yeah, he has a really strong voice. Like you always know when it's one of his videos, and he's so good at like sound design and music. I think his background's in music.
I don't.
I think he said that on his Artless video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That adds a
He's
lot
so
when you
good.
have a background in music. I think that can add aspects to the
Also,
video.
another creative is Daniel DiArco.
Oh my gosh, do you know
I
Daniel DiArco?
don't know these people.
They're like smaller. I mean Daniel DiArco. We met him. I met him through my work actually. He like came in one time, but he had this video that was so creative. He's a photographer, a commercial photographer, but his video he had on his YouTube channel was like nothing I'd ever seen, because there's a lot of creative camera movements, angles, lighting, and he shoots it all himself. So like the camera will move, but he's in the frame. I'm like, how's your camera moving? And
I can't even explain.
He like creates things from, he's a fabricator too. So he'll like make things like robotic type things.
Yeah, if he needs a camera to move, he's like, okay, I'm gonna be doing a dancing video and I want the camera to circle around me. He'll program robotics, whatever. He'll program it to like move around him. He's amazing.
How do you spell his last name?
DEARCO.
Okay.
Like I feel like he's gonna have a Discovery Channel a show in like a couple of years, because it's so good, and he just is a one-man show.
He's like, I need a rig, so I'll just like melt metal down into a mold and make I'm not kidding. And
he's like the extreme Casey Neistat.
It's like annoying how good he is at that kind of stuff. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how are you so good?
He's a genius, and he's like so creative too. Like you usually don't see both in the same person, but he's so good.
So he's a gem.
Yeah.
That's like, I think we kind of like we gravitate towards like I feel like they're overlooked people.
Yeah. But especially like, I love when people are so good and so like down to earth and like super humble.
Yeah.
I could watch them all day.
Business wise, I mean, I don't know in particular. Like one of the founders at my old job, he's like very business minded. So he's helped us along the way with our channel. So that's been like a great resource to have someone who's he had like a successful YouTube channel, and so he had a lot of experience that he could help us out with. So having like a mentor like that was really helpful, I think. Just like navigate, you know, you get like 10 emails from like MCNs and you're like, I don't know, maybe. And then it's nice to have someone who's like, watch out, you know, just someone to watch your back. Yeah. So
I have no business role models. Should I not admit that?
Well, that's okay, you know, because I think it's a brave new world out here, and you kind of have to navigate it in new ways, because especially YouTube and making money on YouTube, there's a lot of different ways, but not one way is the end-all be-all. It's constantly changing. And I think with freelancers in general, you have to have those like multiple streams of revenue to stay safe. Recently on YouTube, the adpocalypse happened, where, you know, ads aren't on as many videos and people are getting demonetized, and it's been crazy.
Every video of ours gets demonetized.
Are you serious?
No.
Yeah, we don't swear. We're pretty like.
Why are you guys?
It's
having
pretty harmless.
with it?
Well, sometimes for a while I think it was because we were putting shoot or shot
in the title.
and so
like, we shot Sarah, DG, and John.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is gonna be a violent video, demonetized. And I'm like,
but even now we don't do that anymore, and they still all get demonetized.
yeah, we always have to request a manual review, and I'm like,
and we get all of our views in the first like 48 hours, and those don't get.
Yeah, it's okay. We definitely don't rely on any one form because they are very unreliable, as you said, and you're relying on a third party for the success of your business. So you have to diversify your, your income.
Yeah. When it comes to YouTube, AdSense, that is hard to rely on because, like you guys said, there are things that you have to factor in with demonetization. What was kind of like your first intro into branded content? Because a lot of ways channels survive out there is partnering with brands, and you guys do it in a fun way. I love how you guys kind of, your videos are short, they get to the point, maybe 4 to 5 minutes, even shorter sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in a few recent ones, it's like, excuse me, I got to pay some bills. And you talk about Squarespace for 30 seconds. And it's like, it's so fun, and it gets to the point, and you're like, oh, okay, that's relevant. Squarespace, creative, cool, and you move on to your content, and it's awesome. Was there any moment that you're hesitant about that, or did that just seem like a good way to pay the bills, but also be valuable to your audience?
Yeah, I think that was always like in mind, when we started the channel, because I just knew that's how I knew most successful YouTubers weren't relying on AdSense, as the majority of their income. Like I knew brand deals was like a huge part of that. Mm-hmm. So we kind of always had that in mind, but we still, we didn't want to just like pitch anything or just promote anything. So it was like really important to us to like partner up with brands that we actually liked or actually used both, So for instance, like at one point, probably like when we had 50,000 subscribers or something, Wix reached out to us. We never used Wix.
You guys did Wix and
No,
Squarespace?
we didn't.
No, we didn't.
We
They
turned them
reached
down.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, well, we'll just hold off and wait until Squarespace contacts us, because
Nice.
Squarespace will sponsor like anyone with a heartbeat. So, so I was like, they'll reach out eventually. So like a few months later, they did, and I was like, okay, well, we use Squarespace. We have 3 Squarespace sites, so that was like a natural partnership, and it's something that we can recommend because we're paying customers of Squarespace, so it made sense. So like that's always kind of been our kind of guideline, is like, is it like a good product or service?
Yeah.
Do we use it? Do we know about like?
Because
so,
we'll turn brands down.
Yeah, we turn a lot of
time.
stuff down that's just like not a good fit, or that we don't feel comfortable pitching or promoting.
Because the second you're not genuine, then that's when people get annoyed. I feel.
Yeah, and people are already so skeptical of being sold to. People are sold to all the time, and so anytime if you have any glowing review for anything, people automatically are skeptical, like, oh, well, you're being paid. And that's not the case a lot of times. And sometimes it can be both, but there's not that. If you don't have that transparency, then it's hard for them to know. And I don't blame people for feeling that way, because I'm that way too as a consumer of content, where you're always like weary of being sold to, and people can slide in like native advertising very sneakily or something. So that's why I think when we did like hang on, gotta pay some bills, change the music, kind of segregated it a little bit, and we know like it probably gets annoying seeing like the same ads, so we try to make them in our style. Like we spent like half a day just shooting like a Squarespace spot, like cooking these waffles. Like it was a lot of work, but I think it was worth it because it makes it a little bit more entertaining to watch, and we could integrate it with the service. So for us, it's like a necessity. If people want us to keep making videos, it's free for them to watch, so we have to make a living somehow. Yeah. And so for us, it's like we could promote something that we like, and we can do it in a way that people might enjoy more than a commercial.
What's cool about brands, I found, is that sometimes they also offer experiences that you would never be able to do. So maybe it's more of like an integrated experience. I'll find myself on like the red carpet of some film festival interviewing people, and it's like, oh, okay, I wouldn't be here just on my own. So it's really cool when they can also add value in terms of that, to actually like add to the content. Oh, little Carlton is now.
And when you develop like a relationship with a brand, a lot of times you can give direct feedback to them about a product. Like you can help improve something. Mm-hmm.
It's cool when you have like a long-lasting relationship.
Yeah, and so we're still new, but I mean, we've already been able to like give feedback on prototypes, and I think we have a perspective where we have our own idea of what would make a product better, but we also hear from a lot of people that watch, you know, their input as well. So I think it helps us have like a semi-balanced perspective when we talk to brands and can tell them what people probably would want most.
Yeah.
With your channel, you have a lot of creators who are following you, aspiring photographers, filmmakers, and it's cool to see the community you guys have built around it. Talk a little bit about not just your YouTube channel, but what do you do outside of that? And on your website, you have something called the Mango Street Lab. What is that, and how does it kind of build the community?
So the lab is our online like photo group. I guess there's some filmmakers in there too, but it's a Discord channel of server.
Basically, if you're familiar with Slack,
Yeah.
it's similar to Slack, but it actually started with gamers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just started one recently, and it's fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So we do like monthly challenges. The purpose of it is so that people who are in it can grow as photographers. So we encourage them to grow by posting behind the scenes of things that we do, challenges. What else do we do?
We have like an ongoing Q&A. So anytime anyone has a question, we'll get in there and answer it the best we can. And so it's like kind of like helping people figure out what they can improve with their photography. A lot of people can get to like taking pretty good photos, but it's really hard to like make that leap and figure out like why it's not like as good as you want it. One big part of that, the lab, is we do a photo critique every month where people can submit their photos, and then we'll go through and analyze them and like give them pointers on what they can improve with the photograph. And I think that's like a big thing that people find helpful, because when we did a photo critique video on our channel, it did way better. Like I was editing it and I was like, this is so boring. Oh my gosh, I'm so bored, because it's like it's screen capture and it's like us talking and we're so low key, it's like not the most exciting thing to edit. And so I was like, oh, this is like not gonna be that good of a video. But then it did really well, and a lot of people responded really well to it. So we knew that was like something people wanted to see, was us critiquing photos, I guess, which we don't like especially love doing, because
No, I hate
it's like
critiquing other
it's like
people's
it's an
work.
art form, and just because we like something one way doesn't mean that's the right way.
Yeah.
So we always try to say, well, this is just a personal preference or something you might want to consider. So we try to do it in a way where it's like, this is not the hard and fast rule. We break rules all the time, and you're more than welcome to, but this is just our feedback if you want it, because people would DM us on Instagram, send us emails. Like we made an inbox, like a new Gmail for like send us your photos to critique, and it ran out of space, and
Like immediately.
yeah.
Oh
And I was like, okay, well, we needed like a solution, and so we're like, well, what if we had like a group, a private group where like people that really wanted to improve could do it. And so that's what the lab turned into the lab. And so I think it's been a great way to like connect with people more on a personal level and follow along with their work, because we've seen so many people improve in such a short time.
Yeah, and it's super cool to see that.
It's like rewarding. We're like proud parents. We're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, look how far you've come. This is great.
Yeah, there's people who, like there's one girl in particular I always think of who submitted these engagement photos, and this is the first time she'd ever done engagement photos. And they were fine, and we like told her what she could improve on, and then we just spotlighted her in a recent video. She just took this like intimate portrait that was like moody lighting and like smoke, and it was like so cool, and it was 2 months apart from the first one, and it doesn't look like it was the same photographer, and it feels like we're doing a good thing.
Yeah, because it's hard to you can't help everyone when you don't, there's not enough time in the day to respond to everyone. So this was like a way where we could like get a dedicated group of people who really wanted to learn. So.
And it's direct. It almost seems like direct access to you. And
Yeah,
people
exactly.
do
Definitely is.
value your opinions. And I recently did like a video critique thing where I watched people's videos, and when I was editing it, same thing as you guys. It's like, this is boring. Who cares about what I'm saying? But the response from it was so good, and it was just an overwhelmingly, and of course there's an aspect of people just want to be highlighted. They want maybe 100 more followers on Instagram.
For sure.
But people really do value the opinions of people just out there killing it. And in the sense, I'm not the most professional filmmaker ever. You guys aren't like on like shooting Vogue photo shoots, but you've built something. Your photography is beautiful, your videos are amazing, and you have a following, and people really look up to your stuff, and it's rightfully so. So yeah, keep doing this, because I watched that video. I enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I need to follow rule of thirds more.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, but we find ourselves like critiquing. Usually, it's like the same issues that beginners
Yeah.
have. Like the shot's crooked. They're cutting them off at the elbow or some joint. So
That's
there's
what
like,
inspired our last video.
yeah. So there's just like a lot of things you can keep in mind that will improve it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So.
What is your favorite social media outside of YouTube?
Either Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah, I would say Instagram, just because for us it's been since it's
source
such
of inspiration.
since it's like a photo platform and we're photographers, it's like a natural, platform for us to choose. One thing we liked about Instagram was like they had weekend hashtag projects, which were kind of creative prompts to get you to go out and shoot something within like that topic, or So for us, it was like when I was working like a day job, and then it helped like motivate you to make time for photography. And if you don't know what to shoot, the theme would help you think of something to shoot. So,
Yeah, sometimes it's like easier to go shoot if you're like put into a box.
yeah,
Like-
having some confines really helps. And so, so Instagram would feature like their 9 favorite weekend hashtag projects from that weekend. And so that was like a little extra motivation for us to like, do a good job. And so they selected Rachel's photo at least twice, right?
And that was posted on Instagram's Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram's Instagram.
No big deal.
Yeah, and then they made her a suggested user at some point, because she always put a lot of effort into her Instagram photo. Like we shot just like iPhone shots for a long time.
Yeah, that sounds so lame, but it's fun, and it's like a good way to get your creative juices flowing.
Yeah, you're not worried about gear or anything. You just
Yeah.
you have what you have, and it's harder. It's harder to shoot a great shot with a phone. So
Yeah.
you have to put a little bit more effort into it, I think.
So what does being a suggested user mean?
So they don't do it anymore.
Mm.
We learned that after we put out a video on how to become a suggested user. Everybody was like, "That's not a thing anymore," and we were like, "Oh, okay."
My bad.
But they just like if for certain people who are like following their community guidelines, they would highlight their profiles, and so when people would sign up for Instagram, they would be suggested to those people.
So you'd get, the bottom line is you'd get like 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers or followers a day as a
You'd get
suggested
As
user
people were signing up.
for like 3 weeks or something.
I feel like everybody got like 30,000
Yeah,
each time.
it pretty much gets you to the 30,000 mark.
I had a friend who was a suggested user, and he got 100,000 followers, but he didn't keep up with his thing. So he still has those 100,000 followers, but he gets like 300 likes.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
happens with suggested users. We're victims of that too.
Yeah, I don't know if they're like, some of them are bots or like so I feel like when you're suggested later, it's people who are like doing like farms or whatever.
The pods.
Yeah, so
too. That's the thing.
Yeah, they're not like people who actually care about your work.
Yeah.
So there's maybe an impressive number, but like that didn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
They eventually made me a suggested user, and then they did it a couple times with us. So that gave us like a little bit of an Instagram following, but like no one really actually. It didn't seem like
there was
anyone
like
cared.
a core like maybe 500 of like the 50,000
Yeah.
or whatever.
So that was. But the bottom line, I guess, was like Instagram. It was beneficial, in some
I still
regard.
use it. I like almost. I follow some friends, but I mostly exclusively follow accounts that inspire me, and so it's kind of just like an inspiration board to just like if we're going out to shoot and I'm like I don't feel inspired right now, it's just like.
Do you guys use collections?
No.
Oh, wait,
my
on
goodness.
Instagram?
Like when you
on
save it, you can make.
Okay.
I think I started
for
too.
you people out there listening to this, if you are not aware of the Instagram feature collections, I use it so much and it's so fun. It's basically like a Pinterest on your
Right.
Instagram. So basically you've probably accidentally saved something. You're just like, what is that? But it's where you press the bookmark icon to the bottom right of the picture, and you can save it to collections. So you can almost have like Pinterest boards. So I have like office, home, inspo, gear. I have so many top-down gear shots that I'll just like go and drool over. But it's super fun because I see so much inspiration on my feed on the daily, and it's cool to kind of aggregate that in a Pinterest-like way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know about it, and it's
Yeah.
a super fun way to, keep that going.
Yeah, before I was just doing screenshots.
Yeah.
So.
But I will say one last thing on Instagram though. I liked it personally as like a rolling portfolio of my work, because like updating a website's kind of annoying, like, and especially if no one's looking
And
at
the
your website,
people
who cares?
are on Instagram.
Yeah, so it's like just a fun way to like. Sometimes I'll scroll back and just be like, oh yeah, we did this and that, and it's just kind of nice to have that personally. It's like your own digital photo album. So.
Rachel, you said you've never really been about the gear or like a gearhead, but you have really good techniques during photo shoots to just draw people in, because taking taking pictures of other people isn't the most natural thing, and then being the subject of it is not that natural. You know, a lot of people will freeze up, and so John and I actually had an opportunity to be the subjects of a photo shoot and also a video. It was so fun. But I think that is a missing element of a lot of people, is they have all the fancy gear, you know, they know how to shoot in manual or do this or that, but then there's a real technique to actually shooting and the art of photography. So is that always something you've kind of like studied, or is that something you've discovered on your own? Like, oh, I can bring out this side of my personality to make them feel like okay, and like what do you do to make subjects more comfortable?
I don't know, honestly. I feel like
did weddings, I guess, expedite that? Because you were always
definitely maybe, I don't know, watching other photographers and then just having to do it so much.
And when you shoot weddings, you're constantly shooting people who aren't used to getting a photo taken. Almost every client we've had has said, oh, we're so awkward in front of the camera. And we're like, don't worry, everyone says that. It'll be fine. And so I think one thing that Rachel does is like, she doesn't do such like strict posing with everyone. Like, don't tilt your chin this way and put your arm this way. It was more just like getting them in a flattering embrace or something like that, and then just shooting their photo without them even realizing it. So I think when she shoots, it's like always like, they're always like, oh, you're already done? I didn't even know you started taking photos. And that was like, I think one of the key ways, just to like get people to forget that you're taking their photo.
Right.
So I think that's one.
That's a really good answer. I'm gonna go with that answer.
Ditto. Well, what are some of the things that you would tell like John and me?
Oh, so we have videos on it. Like, there's like the classic, like, get in there and sniff.
So you have the guy sniff the girl's hair usually, and that's usually makes them laugh,
just
or
any
just makes
way
them
that,
look intimate.
Yeah, any way that you can get them laughing and like closer, more entwined.
Because every distance is magnified through a lens, so it's always getting them like closer than they would naturally, maybe. But it always comes across better in photos.
Right.
Yeah, and then the closer they are, the more comfortable they are. I just feel like.
Yeah. So
I don't know. It's like a thing that I don't really think about now.
Yeah, I think you just developed it over the years.
Yeah.
Well, you're good at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Daniel is too.
I learned from you.
I love it. So with your YouTube channel and taking things to the next level, I know you guys have some exciting plans for the future, but what is some advice that you can offer people who want to take that step into the digital world, or want to build their own business around something creative? Because when you are a photographer, a filmmaker, a designer, there's a lot of aspects to that on the business side that are intimidating. How do you negotiate? How do you, let people know your value when you're talking to them and things? So what is some advice you'd offer to creators out there ready to take that next step into freelance zone or just being your own boss?
Well, one thing is just to like, if you're going to go for it, you just really have to go for it. You know, you have to like make that a priority, I think. And if that means like giving up your weekends or like getting 3 hours of sleep, then that's what it's doing. That's what you have to do. And so, I mean, when I was still working a full-time job and we would do these on the weekend and put them out Monday morning, I would be up till like Sunday at 3 a.m. editing, and I had to wake up, at 8 and get into work. But that was just like, it was worth it, like there's a bigger goal in mind. I was like, well, one day I'll be able to leave the job. I'll be able to just do this during the week, and I don't have to cram everything in on the weekend. So having like a bigger goal in mind, I think, is key. And then knowing your worth too. Knowing what your worth is really important as a freelance creative, I guess. So it's like knowing when to say no, knowing when to stand firm, knowing even when to work for free, because we worked for free a lot in the past, and that's helped in some ways. And you should only work for free if you know you're going to benefit out of it in the long run.
Because it builds relationships.
It builds relationships. As a photographer or videographer, it builds your portfolio. So if it's going to be something that is going to benefit you that way, then in a lot of ways it's okay to work for free. But you can't,
you can't survive on that.
Yeah, and you can't expect that person to ever pay you.
Yeah.
Like if that's how you start a relationship with someone, they're pretty much going to be like, oh well, I got that for free from you before. you'll do it for free again, right? You like doing this, it's fun for you, right? So it is like a slippery slope in some ways, but knowing your worth is really important, and like sticking to that. And it's not being desperate when it came to like brand deals and things like that. It's okay to stand firm. It's okay to say no. It's okay to turn down videos. We've turned down a lot of money just because we didn't feel like it was a right fit for the channel or something like that. And so like having your priorities aligned, I think, is really important. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're in it for the money, you're probably not going to make any money, and you're probably going to have a miserable time trying to. So if you're in it because you like creating videos and like teaching people or like taking photos, whatever, it's like getting in it for the right reasons, I think.
Sure.
If you get in it for the right reasons and you work really hard and you learn a lot on the way, I think the money will come.
Yeah. It's powerful. Heck yeah. Rachel, anything to add?
No, I like that answer too.
Yeah, that was a good answer. So where can people find you on all of the internets?
I mean, we're pretty much all over the main things. On YouTube, our channel's called Mango Street. On Twitter, Mango Street Lab. Instagram, Mango Street Lab. And we have personal Instagrams.
And they're fire. So they will all be linked in the show notes, the YouTube description if you're watching this on YouTube. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do some YouTube collabs.
That'd be fun, yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcast or Google Play, you can also watch the video format of this on youtube.com/thecreativeexchange. Or if you're on YouTube, hi, everyone wave. Hi, YouTube.
There's so many cameras.
I know, so many cameras everywhere. You can also go on Apple Podcasts, download it for your morning commute. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.